Good morning, welcome to The Mint. I'm Andy Hodges. In our main story this morning, we look at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and its remarkable movement or bull run since the beginning of 2020. The Zimbabwe Stock Exchange closed last week on a high, gaining 16.55%, up with no counter losing ground over the period. This week, the bourse further gained 4.01% on Monday, before retreating on Tuesday this week by 1.74%. But here is the interesting fact. At the end of 2019, the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange had a market capitalization of 27.7 billion Zimbabwe dollars, or around 1.2 billion US dollars. At that time, market analysts forecast that the market was undervalued, and yes, they appeared to be correct. As at the 18th of February 2020, the market capitalization stood at 68 billion Zimbabwe dollars, or 2.26 billion US dollars. So in just over a month, the market capitalization in US dollar terms had gone up over 1.1 billion US dollars. Market watchers still believe that even at these current levels, the market may still be undervalued in US dollar terms. Top gainers year to date are OK Zimbabwe rising 346%, Kafka up 279%, Meikles up 230%, Ariston to 80%, and Axia 196%. In fact, all counters on the bourse had some level of gain over the period. The question, of course, is why is this bull run happening? Well, analysts have attributed to a variety of factors, ranging from money supply growth and investors using the ZSE to hedge against inflation. The Mint spoke to Ray Chipendo, Head of Research and Emerging Securities based in Johannesburg, South Africa. We asked him what were the main drivers of the bull run.
Going into Q4 2019, the markets were becoming quite jittery and anxious about the economy and about the performance of companies, primarily because of companies such as Delta, which report quarterly updates which were quite negative, where we saw volumes contracting by more than 20%. And with the general news of electricity and all of those things, the market were justifiably very anxious about financial results. However, getting to December 2019 and for the most part January 2020, the results that were released by a number of companies tended to come back much stronger than we feared. So I'm talking about Delta itself. So despite volumes erosion, earnings and revenue came out quite strong. So I'm talking about, as I say, Delta, OK, Zimplo, all of these companies were coming up with earnings growing at triple digit. An explanation to that is I think companies were increasing prices faster than inflation, and so those types of increase made up for the volumes contraction and gave result. So what you saw is earnings relative to price, which is your PE ratio, really significantly went down to single digits, which rendered most of these stock prices cheap. Second part has nothing to do with fundamentals. I think it's technical. So you may have heard the announcements by the Reserve Bank governor that half of our bank balances are controlled or owned by about 200 odd institutions. So, and then the Reserve Bank governor conjures up a plan to say, hey, in terms of redistributing liquidity, why don't we turn part of your bank balances into corporate bonds? So put yourself in the shoes of one of these institutions and you are told that, hey, in a month or two, we will quote unquote garnish your account and force you to take corporate bonds. If I were one of those institutions, the most reasonable thing to do before the debt is to probably move some of the money into an asset that can shield me from some type of inflation. I don't know if we are going to experience what we experienced last week again this week or next week. I think that the markets have taken a breather. I think that people are beginning to take off their money, those that made huge profits. And I think we may be entering into reversion to normal where moderate stock market gains are experienced. But that will pretty much depend on two factors, which is A, the fundamentals. So mind you, more than 50% of the companies listed have a financial year end of December. So end of February to March will be a hive of activity as companies report their earnings and financials. If the financials come out strong and confirm what we've seen, which is earnings, companies are performing better than we feared, then I think we will continue to see the ZSE index in total going up. But if we begin to perceive weakness in terms of the results, then the markets will start to price such weakness in form of price drops. The second point has to do with the role of the market, which is to sniff out recessions, inflation. So markets are known best to be able to price in inflation, expected inflation. And that will pretty much depend on what the Reserve Bank does and does not do. So if the central bank sticks to its word of bringing down inflation, I think that would be reflected in the markets. And if the government does its best in terms of building the economy, trying to resuscitate the economy, and if there are results to confirm that, then that will also be reflected in earnings and in the stock prices.
We further asked Ray how long he thought the bull run would last and if he thought the market was still undervalued.
So in the first 2 weeks of the year, 70% of all the listed companies were rated either as a buy or as a strong buy, and 30% were hold or sell. So now pretty much the opposite has taken hold. 30% of the companies are now either strong buy or buy, and 70% hold or sell. And that is as a result of the price appreciation we have seen. And one other important insight that we have noted in this last rally is that companies tended to go up under a sector theme. So you may have noticed that FMCGs had a good rally, retail companies had a good rally, and I think that it was just not individual company merit, but the whole cloud of the sector.
As we have said here on the Mint many times before, we recommended that investors should look at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange as a way to maintain value of your hard-earned money, and we were not wrong. At the recent 2020 CZI Economic Outlook Symposium, the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries launched the 2019 Manufacturing Sector Survey. Questionnaires were sent out to 306 manufacturing companies and 146 were returned. The survey covered the period between September 2018 to August 2019. Projected capacity utilization in 2020 is expected to decline to 27%, which is a 9.4 percentage points decrease from the actual obtained for 2019. The capacity utilization in the foodstuff sector was at 37%, drinks, tobacco and beverages 38%, clothing and footwear 44%, textiles and ginning 25%, wood and furniture 47% capacity utilization, and paper, printing and publishing 34%. According to the reports, the shortage of foreign currency, power shortages, low demand for goods as a result of inflation, antiquated machinery and breakdowns, shortages of raw materials and water shortages lowered capacity utilization last year. At 27% capacity utilization level, some companies would have closed, with follow-on effects such as unemployment rising, poverty levels in the economy rising, shortage of goods and services, inflation, reduced aggregate demand hurting government, producers and consumers, low export volumes, less export earnings, shortage of foreign currency, a restive population. These are some of the impediments. A major impediment given by the sector was foreign currency shortages and availability. Closely following this was power shortages, 31%, low local demand inflation, 24%, antiquated machinery and breakdowns, 6%. Capacity utilization in the chemicals and petroleum sector was 36%, non-metallic mineral 49%, metal and metal products 41%, transport and equipment 13%, and other manufactured goods 24%. In 2019, competition from foreign firms came from South Africa 36%, China 18%, India 14%, Zambia as well at 14%, Botswana 7%, COMESA 5%, EU 3%, and Asia 1%. Raw material exposure to countries that we compete with at home and export markets makes our products very uncompetitive. Total numbers employed increased by 3%. Male employment increased by 3%. Female employment increased by 4% during the same period. The largest contributors to employment were drinks, tobacco and beverages, foodstuffs, chemical and petroleum products, metal and metal products. CZI Chief Economist Afadzwa Bandama said the unstable local currency was largely to blame for industry's poor performance. Bandama said shortages of foreign currency also resulted in water shortages in cities as there was no money to import water treatment chemicals, thus affecting consumable producing firms.
Evolving around shortage of foreign currency. Now, in this slide, I compared the capacity utilization for 2019 and projected for 2020. The navy blue bars are the capacity utilization for 2019 and the red bars are projected for 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, the capacity utilization for the projected capacity utilization for 2020 is given by industry was 27%. Industry is expecting to reduce capacity utilization to 20% if there is no drastic change in the policy environment. I still need to ask you some questions. As consumers, I know all of us in here are consumers. At 27% capacity utilization in 2020, do you still expect to walk into a shop and buy what you want? At 27% capacity utilization. And if you are an industry captain, at 27 capacity utilization, do you still expect to go to your factory to open and still operate in order to earn and enjoy profit? And as labor, do you hope that your employer will still employ you in 2020 if capacity utilization will be at 27%? As a policy maker, Honorable Minister, will you still prescribe the same policy measures that are currently prevailing in 2020 if capacity utilization is at 27%? And to tax collectors, I don't know if there's somebody from Zimra here. Tax collectors, will you still be able to generate revenue for the fiscus if capacity utilization is at 27%?
As a result of the intensifying economic problems, no manufacturing company had output of higher than 50%. During the survey, companies indicated that they were only receiving 50% of their monthly energy supply. The cost of power cuts resulted in 29% of the firms surveyed reporting wastages, 36% faced by reduced quality of products, 34% recording machine breakdowns, and 1% facing delayed product testing. Meanwhile, the depreciating Zimbabwe dollar has led to hyperinflation, as businesses are now pricing their goods in line with parallel market foreign currency exchange rates in order to preserve value. This has resulted in reduced spending as consumers are now operating under tighter budgets, leading to business recording reduced sales. News 24 reports that Eskom's new CEO, Andy De Ruyter, has cracked the whip at the troubled power utility, extending lifestyle orders to lower-level staff in a renewed push to clean up graft and wastage. De Ruyter spoke about lifestyle audits in a speech delivered to Eskom staff. He called for a range of measures to curb reckless spending, end corruption and stabilize operations. This follows the same audits of Eskom senior managers and their families starting 2 years ago, which resulted in a number of disciplinary actions and the referral of staff files to the Special Investigating Unit. Eskom spokesperson Sinkonati Machasanta said the audits that De Ruyter spoke about were a continuation of the cleanup process at Eskom that started 2 years ago that had now cascaded down to the rest of the staff. De Ruyter said that Eskom had been too relaxed in dealing with its finances and said that the power utility's debt finance costs were around 28 billion rand a year. He said that 6 billion rand had been spent on diesel in the last financial year and that 1.4 billion rand had been lost on non-technical losses like theft and vandalism. De Ruyter told staff that Eskom leadership had been scared to take decisions after 10 years of state capture and that accountable leadership had to return to the organization. He urged staff to improve customer service, cautioned against a relaxed approach in dealing with money, and said there was too much wasted in the procurement environment. De Ruyter emphasized the need to reduce Eskom's bloated workforce while, at the same time, avoiding forced retrenchments. Eskom had to cut back on staff costs, but that this would be done through voluntary separation and early retirement packages, and that there would be no forced retrenchments, he said. According to the source, De Ruyter emphasized that the number one priority for Eskom now was preventive, reliable and scheduled maintenance on its fleet. He had said this during a meeting with Trade Union Solidarity, the trade union's Dion Reinek confirmed. De Ruyter told the employee engagement meeting in Cape Town that on a good day, 30,000 megawatts of Eskom's total installed capacity was available, while about 24,000 megawatts was available on a bad day. De Ruyter has also implemented a planned maintenance schedule on its power fleet for the next 18 months, which means regular load shedding for South Africans, but it is hoped it will stabilize the grid. The Eskom board did approve the plan last week. HSBC has reported a 33% fall in pre-tax profit for 2019 to $13.35 billion, below analysts' expectations and those of its own chief executive. The bank said the drop was due to a goodwill impairment of $7.3 billion. Interim Chief Executive Noel Quinn indicated more was expected of the company. He said, and I quote, "The group's 2019 performance was resilient. However, parts of our business are not delivering acceptable returns." The bank has its headquarters in London, but almost half of its revenue and nearly 90% of its profits in 2018 came from Asia, with much of that coming from Hong Kong. HSBC said it will continue to monitor the recent coronavirus outbreak, which is causing economic disruption in Hong Kong and mainland China and may impact performance in 2020. Depending on how the situation develops, there is the potential for any associated economic slowdown to impact our expected credit losses in Hong Kong and mainland China, it said. The HSBC statement also addressed Brexit, saying that now that the UK has officially left the EU, negotiations can begin on their future relationship. It added that, as well as remaining close to Europe, the UK must also strengthen its links with other key partners, including the US, China and Southeast Asia. Mr. Quinn said he and his team had begun implementing a plan to increase returns for investors, create the capacity for future investment and build a platform for sustainable growth. The restructure involves consolidating of some parts of the business and reorganizing the global functions and head office. HSBC on Tuesday announced 35,000 job cuts globally after its net profit fell for 2019. The impact of the job cuts in the UAE or the wider Middle East and North Africa, that's MENA region, was not clear as the bank didn't disclose the breakdown in its annual results. The London headquartered bank will boost its investment to the Middle East and Asia, but reduce exposure to the US and Europe. Egypt will set up a facility to convert rice straw into wood in a bid to limit air pollution resulting from burning the straw, official Aram online news website reported on Thursday. The $228 million plant located in the Nile Delta's Beira province will produce 205,000 square meters a year of medium-density fiberboards using technologies developed by German engineering firm Simpelkamp. The German firm is also helping carry out the project, Aram Online reported. Burning agricultural waste, mostly rice straw, has for years posed a major environmental challenge and caused severe air pollution in an already highly polluted country. A deal for the project was signed between newly established state wood technology company Wotec and state-owned oil firm Petrojet during an international energy conference in Cairo, the website reported, adding that another agreement was signed with the German firm. The plant will produce high-quality local products that will be used in various sectors like furniture, construction and decoration. Stanbic Bank is set to close its Chitungwiza and Beitbridge branches by March 31st this year as part of its digitization strategy, which allows customers to conduct their banking any hour of the day from any connected location. Stanbic Bank Chief Executive Joshua Tapambwa said the digitalization strategy will leave the financial player with a physical footprint of 17 branches across the country. He explained how Stanbic Bank views the digitization drive as a move necessitated by technological advancements that have taken over the sector worldwide. He said, "The model we are following has been adopted by many financial and non-financial institutions in other parts of the world, but very few in Southern Africa. The new banking technologies we are introducing continue to bring ease of banking to our customers, which gives us the confidence to move to the next level of banking." Tapambwa reassured customers with accounts being maintained at these 2 branches that their accounts will be safely migrated to Southerton and Bulawayo Main Street branches, with the option of visiting any one of their 17 branches should the need for service from physical branch facilities arise. In order to make the strategy a reality, Tapambwa acknowledged the need for great innovation, which is why the bank has seen it fit to redeploy staff members from these branches to digital banking, innovation-related and sales roles within the bank. The bank's head of personal and business banking, Patson Mahachi, recently pointed out that the institution was making strides in its journey towards becoming a digital bank for the utmost customer convenience. He noted that one technological milestone realized last year was the bank's remote onboarding functionality, which enables new customer accounts to be opened at the customer's preferred location, allowing them access to digital banking facilities instantly. You've been watching The Mint. I'm Andy Hodges. Please follow us on our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network, our website, ztn.co.zw, and on YouTube under ZTN. Your comments are welcome via our Twitter handle @ZTN News and, of course, via Facebook. Join us here on The Mint every weekday morning at 6 a.m. Central African Time. Well, that's it for me this morning. Goodbye. Have a profitable business day, and you all be safe.